I really honestly say that I met a few idealistic communists during my years as a student in the university. But even they don't wanted Soviet communism, but Hungarian communism. And of course, 95% of those people who I knew, and all, I think it included the laboring class too, and the peasant class, because they just didn't like, from practical reasons, they didn't like the communism, because the first 5-year plan, let's make steel. Hungary made the most expensive steel in the world because we didn't have coal, we didn't have iron ore. Well, we had some coal, but not enough. Tatabánya, there is some coal. But we didn't have enough anything. And we made the most expensive steel. The only other country which did pull the same thing, making steel without having any resources, is Japan. But it was much later and the technology was much better. So the Japanese steel today is much cheaper than the Hungarian steel was in '56. I really can't remember anybody who was communist. During the communist period. Obviously after nobody was communist. I even knew a few. Some of my relatives had uncles or cousins who were officers in the AVH, AVO, the secret police. And they were not very communist. I met them in parties, and they didn't say anything against the regime, but they didn't. But when they heard what we said against the regime, they were just laughing. I don't know. Really. Okay. Did I answer you?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
You talked about like Eisenhower, and you were not interested in having any military intervention. Were there any?
No, we misunderstood me. All I said is, sorry, please finish again.
Were there any nations that you hoped, or like the nation hoped for support in any way, like in that you didn't receive, or that?
Well, I just brought up Eisenhower because obviously, well, first of all, as I said, we were hoping that nobody is going to help us with invading army. I just mentioned Eisenhower because, of course, he was the head of the most powerful nation, and he was so occupied with the Suez crisis. And of course, in the Suez crisis, the Americans and the British were on different sides. The British were also too occupied for same reason. And who else would come up with enough moral standing? Even a Pope didn't say anything, as far as I know. Not that in my mind he has moral standing. So I really, it was just really a general, there was a United Nations. Well, the United Nations was and still probably is loaded with socialist countries. Or, yes. Okay, so we didn't, I'm telling you that we didn't really look for help from anybody specific, but just the outside world. I mean the Western world, because obviously we couldn't ask Poland or Czechoslovakia, or even Austria. Part of Austria was under Soviet occupation after World War II, and I think that's why they knew best. That one of the reasons they helped us so much, because they knew what does it mean. For some reason, a few years before the '56 revolution, the Russians made a peace treaty. I still don't understand why they gave part of Austria back to Austria, but that's what happened.
It has to do with the commitment of the Austrian government to a neutral status.
Oh, I see. Okay, so I didn't know that. I mean, a lot of...
That was what Stalin wanted for Germany, a neutral Germany, and that did not become reality. In the case of Austria,
it really came.
It turned out to be reality.
Yeah.
The Western powers were not happy with a neutral Austria, but the Soviet Union could eat it, and the Austrians were happy to have regained full sovereignty over the whole country.
Okay.
After this. That was in 1955.
I have a question for Marta.
Marta.
She had to go.
And she goes up.
Yeah.
She had to go to work.
She has to go to work.
Oh, that's right. Okay, I'm sorry.
She wanted to know why people didn't come back to Hungary.
Why people come back? I don't know why people come back to Hungary.
Why they don't come back.
1984, because my wife said, you have to go back for your 40th reunion. That's why.
And he was happy.
I have to tell you. I'm sorry?
And you were quite happy with it.
Once, yes, I was quite happy. But I have to tell you, when I left Hungary, I really left Hungary. I never looked back. I never bothered to find out what the political system is. The only thing I was interested, those people who I loved here, which were quite a few. I mean, I have a very big family here. But as far as, I didn't feel myself Hungarian anymore, so to speak. So a lot of Hungarians who went out, they still feel so Hungarian that it just kills me. But I didn't. After I left here, I lived in England for 5 years, and then since '62 I live in the United States. And I'm a United States citizen, and I really feel United States citizen. Fortunately, I'm old enough, even if there is a war between the United States and Hungary, I don't have to take sides because I'm too old for it. But if I had to, I would take the United States side, because that's my home now, and that's my grandchildren's home. And but of course, that's just my personal history. And afterwards, every 5 years they came back. For the excuse was my 55, 60, 65 reunion. Tomorrow day after tomorrow I will have my 66 reunion, which is specifically organized because I'm back in the country, and there are only 5 of us from the 55. But a lot of people out in the West, they still so stick to the Hungarianness that they are unhappy where they live. I mean, I met some Hungarian woman who wanted coffee cup from Hungary because it is, I don't know, handle is the right side, but who knows?